So oftentimes I find that if I don't have my direction of which way I'm going with things, or I notice other people don't have direction, it really does make a difference in what we're doing. So today I want to talk a little bit about having direction in your life.
Sounds
Welcome.
good.
Welcome, Tom. You ready to talk about that?
Well, I got a feeling I'm going to talk about priorities.
Prioritizing direction. Okay, well, let's go there.
Yeah, what are my priorities?
Yeah. And so, I always like to bring it back home to being practical. So there's a lot of people out in the world sharing basically the same type of things we are, right? Just in their I'll say perspective, kind of like we do with our spiritual perspectives, but also with their flavor, their spiritual backing, whatever, right? So understanding that we're all sharing the same thing, just in different variations, and how to go about making it practical versus like just listening to all this stuff and going, well, what does that all mean for me?
Right. Okay. So, what I hear you saying, and what strikes me as you share, is that people have belief systems, and some people have spiritually oriented or spiritualism type belief systems,
Mhm.
versus a religious belief system. So, there's these ideas they have about things. So, one of them is okay, we're souls and we're here to learn and grow, and reincarnation's a reality, and whatever, and you have spiritual help where you can communicate with the universe. However, how many people really feel it? How many people really find themselves uplifted as they tune into that truth, the truth of
Mhm.
who they really are?
Mhm.
And what are the things that happen when you're talking about direction? I got an idea where you're going to go with this, is that
Yeah.
what are the things that show up in everyday life that all of a sudden I don't feel that great? I'm having some challenging experiences. I'm working with other people. My direction, I'm not sure of it. I might feel discombobulated. I don't know what my priorities are. And things start to become hard. We start to struggle and suffer as we move through it. So it's great that you have a concept that you're a soul and that you're here to learn and grow. But if you don't know how to make, well, so what? So what's the point?
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you
And
get all discombobulated.
right, right. And so for myself lately, I've been noticing that the more that, well, of really the last couple of years, right? The more that I'm aware, the more that my sensitivity is expanding because I believe each day we're here, we're, learning and growing, right? So I'm not the same person I was yesterday. Neither are you listeners or last week or last month or last year. So in recognizing for myself, I'll keep it in the first person, that from my discernment and my understanding of like where others around me are, as far as energetic wise, belief wise, how they roll through their life, the people that they might get in contact with and get, entangled with, I'll say. It really brings full circle, like what you're saying is, my beliefs are what my beliefs are. And I can just, all I can do is honor others. But in recognizing that what I've put together for myself, and this has not only been this lifetime, it's been many, many lifetimes, has given me the direction now that I currently have to feel more fulfilled because I understand that, where other people are at, it's okay. Like an example. So, my mom, who I'm around quite often, she,
Hello, Mom.
no, she doesn't
Yikes.
listen. She,
Yes, she does sometimes.
you think so? She is around her, some siblings and other people that are of different energies and different,
Different level of consciousness,
different levels of
but similar
consciousness.
to hers.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we all, there's a reason why we're attracted to one another, right?
Hmm.
Because we have that within us. So recognizing that, I can be with her an extended period of time and then something will move in that will get one or both of us stimulated. And it's so interesting because I recognize that this happens quite frequently, but I am also to the point that, I know how to work with it better because I know my direction. I know that when I'm with her, it's to go to the movies or we're going shopping or there's a purpose, like I think what your priorities. There's a priority as far as, why we're together, what we're doing, and that direction supports that. And knowing that, when I come together with other people, if I recognize that as a key component to who I am and what I'm doing and involved with, it just really helps me move through things no matter what comes my way. Because there's always going to be, maybe a little chaos, or maybe I'm driving to work and there's someone that cuts me off. Or like the other day, there was this car that came right up behind me so close. I was like, okay, I could feel, for me, I'm
You
like,
feel the pressure.
I felt the pressure they were under. I didn't really want to be under that pressure. So I moved aside and I was like, wow, it was pretty intense. So recognizing again how to work with the different energies that we're all surrounded by.
So, Teresa, you covered a lot of ground there with all those comments. Can you distill it down to what is a key concern if you work with your guidance that you'd like to share about today or gain some greater awareness?
When you arrived back, you were enthusiastic to be here. If you've lost some of that enthusiasm, there's a way to reawaken it. It's by embracing a bigger spiritual picture of your life as a soul and igniting the feeling of freedom within. If you're ready and needing some more enthusiastic mojo for yourself, then follow the link in the show notes to access a free video series created by the Way Showers College and get ready to start feeling more clarity, hope, and freedom within. Well, I think the main thing is about direction.
Okay, so let's talk
Mhm.
about direction. So we're sensitive and we
Very.
pick up thoughts and feelings from our environment. You know, we can pick up thoughts and feelings from the people around us, from the souls or energy that's around us that are attracted to similar thoughts and similar vibrations. And, you know, when you say you believe you're learning and growing, well, I would say you've you trust that you're learning and growing because you've made changes to how you experience life, and you notice that you're expanding in your awareness. But that, I guess what I hear you saying is as you expand your awareness, you still have other challenges that you come across. So then it's even more important that I stay cleansed and I tune into, okay, here's the key word: priority. What's my priority? So my priority is to live my spiritual thrust, which is to be happy and free. And there's a feeling to that. It's not, there's an intellectual understanding of it, but there's also really the feeling is what motivates me. And I know when I feel happy and free, I feel, like I've just got it made. It's one of the ways for me to describe it, that I love my environment. I love the people around me. And it's a great feeling. But if I start to buy into concepts about being under pressure or meeting somebody else's expectations or, uh, not living up to some of my concepts of my expectations, then I can put pressure on myself. So my priority has got to be that I stay in that flow, that feeling of my thrust. But where the confusion can come in is that, we're taught we're here to suffer, that we're little worms, we're insignificant little
Mm.
worms. And what God really wants us to know is that we are great. And I'm not the only great person. You're not the only great. Everybody's great. But let's learn. It's just a little bit of confusion about some spiritual ideas where we just got to modify it to get back to my first priority is me to be relaxed, feeling free, feeling happy. And when I move from there, what keeps my direction clear is I know what my priorities are. So my experience of it is that I like to please. I have a tendency, that's probably part of my maze. I love for people to be happy and free too. And so when loved ones around me give me things to do or suggest certain things, I like to deliver. I like to make them happy and all that. But
Wonder who that is, Tom.
don't know. But I just gave Teresa a cold, hard look, folks, if you are listening. Anyway, but it takes one to know it. So, what I've been realizing lately, it's great that you brought this up, is I have to get back to what is my thrust, so how do I work with that? And rather than suffer through it to please somebody, I go, wait a minute. In fact, I did it this afternoon, folks. What's my priority? What's your priority? Because when you live around a good intuitive like Teresa, she's got plenty of projects and she knows where to head, and she's a born leader. So, it's important that we communicate with each other and clarify, our boundaries. And that's a big one, clarifying my boundaries. Well, I only have so much time because I have another priority too. So we live in the real world. So what is it? If I come back to my first priority, it's just to feel that freedom and happiness inside, I'm going to make sure naturally I'm going to take action. I read something recently, just this week, reviewing some old courses that we've got, and that, when you're a baby, you are not afraid to communicate at full volume exactly what's on your mind or how you're feeling. But as we, grow up, we're kind of trained to keep quiet and not, deny ourselves in the sense of not, meet our needs. Now, the truth is that it's important that we work with each other, and we love to share love with each other. And one of the ways we do is working together and helping each other and taking opportunity and all those wonderful things. But we have to, I know for me, I have to maintain that clear communication. And usually that dispels all the problems. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I can relate to all that. I can relate to D, all the above. And I'm saying that kind of in a kind of hushed tone because, today is a new moon and it's coming up to an eclipse. And so I'm very influenced and affected by energy. And so when these times come, I can feel kind of discombobulated. And I think what you were kind of bringing forth for myself is, prioritizing, like I did go into a whole bunch of scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Which I am good with. That's one area I'm learning about is organizing all of my thoughts and all of my, the things I want to share and bring forth, because I have, a lot of like this and that and that and this and this and that, but having that direction for myself, especially on days like today when the energies.
We have a few things to do today too. We have a schedule.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like the direction of, the things that we have, like I did work this morning, and then we've got this, and then we're going to do our spiritual perspectives, taping after discerning news. And then tonight we've got fellowship. So yeah, we've got quite a bit of stuff going on today, but it's good because for myself, that gives me, a direction as far as instead of just being spun out with the energies and how I'm really feeling inside. Cause I am feeling a bit discombobulated just because of the energy. And also there was the big earthquake over in Burma.
Really, I want to say something about astrological influences and the moon.
What, Thomas?
What comes to me, and Spirit has suggested that those influences are real. However, it really is going to magnify areas that I need to get clearer on. I need to become more aware on. So in other words, it's great that we love to accomplish. And it's important in leadership to make sure people are moving at a reasonable pace if you're the leader. And it's always good, that's always good. So it really just comes down to, for some reason, I'm avoiding prioritizing all these great things I need to do. One of the things that, and so what's the effect on you when you don't prioritize and are clear or have sensed with guidance and with the energy you felt what the priorities are? And you're very clear. What do you pick up when I share that?
Well, what I pick up about that is that it's, I've learned a certain specific way for myself to discern what I'm feeling and to really recognize that, I have to have a direction and I have to have priorities set forth so that way I don't get, I want to say kind of like, get influenced by all the energies. That's why, honestly, these days, like I'm not guided to go to a lot of like moon ceremonies and all kinds of things because it's just, it's kind of like a lot of people just all spinning out together in certain, events like that, especially around these high energy moments.
Hmm. So the high energy is there to help me see. Another way I would put it is to help me see what areas I need to shore up for me spiritually. What areas am I reawakening or relearning about? So if I have clear within myself and then I recheck with spirit, because you have helpers. I mean, you got helpers to make this really easy for yourself. Uh, but all you have to do is recheck. And if I have helpers that can help me communicate effectively what my priority is and clearly in the right timing, then I can move mountains, and it's like I'm walking with spirit and I'm really flowing into the river. So it shows for some reason there's a little confusion about setting your priorities from first principles. In other words, how do you want to feel? How do you want to move? What's the timing? And now this is, for me, my pitfall is, so glad you brought this up, because my pitfall is wanting to please. And then if I'm out of balance in my visionary part, I want to look good. So I want to get it all done and be the hero if I'm not careful. But that can that ends up putting pressure on me, and it can be wear and tear physically. So when we talk about spiritual ideas, coming back full circle, it's great to know you're a soul and physical body. It's great to know that you have had other lifetimes. If I'm not traveling in that feeling of true concern and love and inner authority and inner security 100% of the time, then I'm going to have some pressure show up once in a while. But they're great. It's great that that shows up, because now we can discover what areas we're opening ourselves up to confusion. So it's not like you're doing anything wrong or I'm doing anything wrong. It's just an area where I can let confusion in instead of really be on track. Does that make any sense? Or how do you relate to
Absolutely. Yeah. How I relate to that is that the people that are around me, or the situations I mentioned earlier, like with my mom, or other, like work or driving to work, whatever. So like the things that happen around me and through other people or other events or other moments in time really are opportunities for me to recognize, is that a priority? Do I need to be involved in that? How do I work with that energy of where I'm at?
Yeah, well, and when you're at work, you have to work with those people. So your mom, you can leave, right? You can go next door. You can send her back home. Those kind. You can escape if you want to. I'm just not picking on you. I'm just saying, using this as an example. But when you're out in the public, or I play drums in a country band, as you know, and we occasionally have somebody that's kind of drunk and discombobulated show up. But it's important is I know where I'm at first. So our colleague Tiger Cole often has shared lately about really minding my own business. So my first priority is for me to feel happy and free and secure. So I know my priorities, and I know where I begin and end, and what I'm going to get involved with and what I'm not going to get involved with. But as I'm being of service, and I find that, like let's say somebody at work has got some invoice that is putting a lot of pressure on you because he forgot to get it in, or he didn't recheck with you and it was an important one. And he's putting his pitfall is not rechecking. Now that takes two to tango, but let's say that's the situation. And you're real good at not getting caught up in their confusion. You go, okay, oh, he's a little under pressure. I'm going to work with him. I'm going to be of service. That's not my pressure. Where there's other people you might find will take on the pressure, and then they hate work and they hate working with their colleagues. So there's never this utopian situation here on planet Earth, because we're going to mix in with lots of different levels of consciousness. But as long as you have your priority clear. So what I hear you saying is your priorities are very clear in business, right? You know where you begin and end. You know how you want to roll. So in your first 7 years, or your environment, somebody had that very clear when they were in business. Who do you feel that
Oh, my
was?
dad.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like your dad
Yeah.
was very clear. But when he came home, it wasn't so clear what his
Mm-mm.
priorities were.
No.
And so, without going into all the who struck John and so forth, but that's a very common, it's common in our society. So same thing for my dad. But he was great in business. And sometimes at home, I was like, he just didn't, a mentor might say, well, he just doesn't do the same thing as in business as he does in his personal social.
So what's the purpose of this sharing today?
Purpose of this sharing is to really wake up people. Oh, I got chills on that. For me is one, for me to regroup myself on when I felt discombobulated about my priorities and kind of have a nice discussion with you so we compare notes and work with spirit to come up with solutions, and also just to stimulate the audience, the folks that listen, look at things from a little different way. Let's start making it practical by working with your own sensitivity. Start from the pivot point that you're already perfect. You're just here to unfold and relearn more about yourself. And then you have spiritual helpers that can help you with that. And pay attention to those chills when they come around. I don't know, what do you feel like the purpose was?
Yeah, I do feel that's the purpose. I feel that, especially from last week when we did the episode with Chiron, how he talked about and we shared about that, with the energies that were going to come up in April, May, and on, and really where we're at as far as a collective right now. Anyway, there's so much information that recognizing and really prioritizing, what you want to be involved in and what direction you want to take with things and saying, is it a yes or is it a no for me? And really recognizing that, like you're saying, honey, with, having our spiritual helpers and our awareness of our energy and cleansing and being able to really move through life in maybe a manner that's more supportive than has been in the past. And also when recognizing that when you're working with someone else, whether it be your mom, your dad, a loved one, a colleague, or whatever, that you can give a little more grace with, where they're at, because you understand that we're all going through different things here on the planet.
Yeah. And respect yourself as you're learning and growing. And, it's okay to suffer. I mean, if you want to judge the hell out of yourself, I mean, nobody's going to stop you. And you're not going to spiritually die or anything. It's just you might be wasting your time, and begin to evaluate. So, what occurs to me as you share is that, like in business, you're very clear about your priorities and where you begin and end and how you want to feel. You're masterful in that. So it's, it's just regrouping. Why have I adopted this habit where I'm not masterful at that with other people in more my personal social, where I'm, just dealing with a loved one or, people close to me.
Yeah. Something to look at for sure.
Yeah.
When you gravitate towards trust, life moves with more grace and ease. One way is staying in the now and mastering your inner world, those psychic perceptions that show up through feelings, knowings, hearing, and seeing. If you are ready for more clarity for your direction in life, by honoring your time and trust, check out the link in the show notes for our next Intuition Now Masterclass, where we explore your inner abilities and support you in getting your own answers and start trusting in yourself.
So I guess that's a good place to end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels
And,
good to me.
Do you feel more enthusiastic?
Oh, I feel damn enthusiastic.
Well, you always did.
On this high energy day, I feel really, no, I really do. I feel fine. So thank you all out there for listening or watching on our YouTube channel. Another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual Podcast. We appreciate you. If you have enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share it with loved ones and give us a like or a comment. If you're on Apple, we would love to hear from you. That'd be awesome. And until next time.
Well, and also look for our Intuition Now classes, where you can start to develop your own intuition and begin to work with your spiritual helpers and become more aware of all the solutions that are available.
We like solutions.
To keep you happy and free.
Making it practical. So until next time, just remember that.
Life is too short to
not be
enthusiastic,
about your
unique.
journey.
To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.